In the orphanage the children were playing around. No one cared about the pigeon that was trapped. Thomas was the only boy who opened the window and let the pigeon go. Everyone else was grabbing at it and laughing at him. It turned out the whole thing was a human nature test in the orphanage. Thomas was the chosen child. Not long after he was told he was going to be adopted. He thought he was just leaving the orphanage like any normal kid. A woman came to him. Her name was Maya. She told him she was his mother. But when his adoptive father first saw him he frowned. He thought Thomas was too thin and too weak. Not at all what he wanted. Just one look made Thomas drop everything in fear. That night the adoptive father openly showed his dissatisfaction. He said he did not like the boy. He thought he was too weak. But the adoptive mother disagreed. She said he was the kindest and bravest child in the orphanage. Thomas was very sensitive to other people's emotions. Even a slightly unfriendly look could scare him. But the new home slowly became warm. The house was full of bright colors. The adoptive mother even made him a pajama by hand. He wore it nervously. The adoptive father walked in and asked if it fit. The atmosphere felt awkward. The next day the mother took him to collect eggs. She taught him how to interact with people. Thomas slowly relaxed. For the first time he smiled. He successfully got the eggs. But he was still a little nervous. On a rainy day he saw puddles on the ground. He really wanted to step in them. But he was afraid of getting his shoes dirty and being scolded. The mother saw his hesitation and told him to play together. They both stepped into the puddles. Water splashed everywhere. Thomas felt a kind of happiness he had never felt before. But when he turned and saw the father's expression, he immediately lowered his head again. On the way home he did not dare to speak. The mother said the father was just cold on the outside but warm inside, and would slowly get better. At night she gave him warm milk before bed. Thomas thought everything was going well, but he accidentally overheard the parents' conversation. He heard the father was not satisfied with him. That night he could not sleep. His mind kept flashing back to the orphanage. The next morning he saw a rainbow outside the window. He was very excited. He ran to tell the mother, but he became nervous again when he saw the father. The father told him to speak up bravely. He stammered and said he saw a rainbow. Instead of being strict the father encouraged him to go outside. The mother put boots on him, and told him to go play in the puddles. Thomas finally ran out smiling. Soon the father mentioned taking him to the sea and going fishing, and told him to get ready. The mother took Thomas to the seaside. The sun was bright and the sea wind was strong. It was the first time he saw the real ocean. The mother taught him to make strange sounds. Soon seals appeared from the water. Thomas was shocked. He tried to imitate them but could not. The mother encouraged him not to give up. She said seals could sense human emotions, and even send feelings to faraway people. Thomas thought of his grandmother. He spoke his thoughts to the seal, then quietly said he liked it here. The mother was deeply moved. Their relationship became closer, and Thomas began to trust her more. The father also became part of their life, but he still struggled to express himself. One day he took Thomas out to fish. Thomas wanted to go but was also afraid. In the end he decided to follow. On the way the father was called away by friends to drink. He told Thomas to wait a bit. Thomas waited on the shore, but no one came back for a long time. His trust began to shake. He went to the little seal to talk. The seal was injured, so they decided to help it. The father came back very late. He did not explain much. Thomas felt very down. The mother tried to comfort him, and took him back to the sea again. She said everyone makes mistakes. The wind was strong at the beach, but Thomas slowly calmed down. Later the father spent time alone with him. He tried to feed the seals together. It was the first time they worked as a team. They named the little seal Small Gray. Thomas visited it every day. It became a routine. The mother remembered his birthday. She prepared a cake for him. The father gave him a fishing rod, hoping he would learn to fish. Thomas was happy, but the mother's health started to decline. She had a heart condition. She tried to hide it. One day the father took Thomas out to sea again, but he was called away by friends. He told Thomas to wait again. Thomas waited once more. Time passed slowly. He eventually went to find Small Gray alone. The sea started to change. The wind became stronger. The small boat was pushed away. Thomas was in danger. The father noticed and rushed to save him, but the distance was too far. Suddenly a group of seals appeared, surrounding Thomas. The waves grew bigger. Thomas disappeared under the water. The father panicked. He finally realized how important Thomas was. He found him on the beach. Thomas was unconscious. Later he slowly woke up. He said the seals saved him. When they returned home they spread out a colorful tablecloth. It was something the mother had left behind. Thomas asked if he could stay. The father did not answer immediately. Later he said he would not send him away. Thomas finally felt safe. He hugged the father for the first time. The home began to change. Thomas became more cheerful, but the mother's condition worsened. She was sent to the hospital. Thomas went to see her. She was very weak, but still tried to speak to him. Thomas struggled to accept it. She told him to remember the rainbow. She said he could meet her in his heart. Soon after she passed away, Thomas could not accept it. He refused to attend the funeral. He went alone to the sea for a long time. The father became silent. The house grew quiet. Thomas felt the father no longer needed him. He began to distance himself. Neighbors tried to comfort him, but he was still in pain. Later he decided to stay. He started helping the father with everything: cleaning, feeding animals, repairing the house. He tried to keep the home alive, but the father became colder. He even burned the colorful cloth, trying to forget the past. Thomas broke down when he saw it. For the first time he argued with the father. He felt everything was his fault. He ran to the sea again. He cried for a long time. Then small gray appeared. It showed him something in the distance. The wind over the sea became colder. Thomas stood at the water unsure where to go. Small gray swam toward him. It kept making sounds, as if guiding him. Thomas followed it into the shallow water. The sea darkened. The sky pressed down like a storm. The father noticed something wrong, and rushed after him. But the waves were already rising. The water began to churn. Small gray led the way, constantly looking back. Thomas walked further into the sea, not realizing the danger. Suddenly a huge wave appeared. The small boat was lifted. Thomas was thrown into the water. The father rushed in but could not reach him. A group of seals appeared again, surrounding Thomas. He lost consciousness in the water. His body slowly sank. The father shouted his name, and kept swimming forward. At the last moment, Small Gray supported Thomas' body, and pushed him toward the surface. The father finally grabbed him, and pulled him back to shore. Thomas had no response. The father knelt on the sand and pressed his chest. Waves crashed onto the beach. The sky began to clear. Thomas slowly regained breathing. The first word he said was Small Gray. The father stayed silent for a long time. He only held him tightly. After the storm passed, the sea became calm again. They returned home. The room was quiet. The father looked at the colorful cloth. He said nothing for a long time. Thomas asked if he would leave. The father finally said no. He said he would not let him go. Thomas relaxed at last. The father slowly learned how to take care of him. He tried cooking, and tried talking more. Thomas began to smile again, but the absence of the mother still remained. One night the father sat alone at the table, holding his wife's handkerchief. Thomas came in and sat beside him. They shared a quiet moment without distance. A few days later, the adoption agency came again, ready to take Thomas away. He stood at the door not moving. The father was silent for a long time. Then he signed the papers. For the first time he said he would not let him go. Thomas froze, then slowly walked toward him. They stood together. The agency left. The house became quiet again. Thomas ran to the sea to find Small Gray. He told it he would not leave. Small Gray swam in circles, as if responding. The father watched from afar. This time he did not stop him. Back at home, Thomas spread the colorful cloth again. The house regained color. The father did not object. A few days later, he took Thomas out fishing. This time he did not leave halfway. They pulled the net together, and shared the catch. Thomas truly felt a father for the first time. Small Gray followed the boat in the distance. The sea was calm. The sun returned. A rainbow appeared in the sky again. Thomas pointed and shouted. The father only nodded gently. They watched the light together. When they returned to shore, Small Gray was waiting. It brought a smaller seal with it. Thomas smiled. He knew it had found family. He waved goodbye. The seal slowly disappeared into the sea. The wind lifted a red handkerchief. It flew from Thomas' hand, into the sky and over the water, and disappeared like a rainbow. The father stood behind him, still silent, but he placed a hand on his shoulder for the first time. Thomas did not turn back. He just looked at the sea. The home became quieter, but also warmer. He began to truly live there, no longer afraid, and no longer running away. Every day had sea wind. Every day had light. He finally understood. This place had become his home.